Sup everyone, I'm ItsReallyTimmyB and welcome to the EBL Roundup. As I said, I'm ItsReallyTimmyB, joined by my co-host as always, Landon aka Infernomen, coach of the Iowa Incineroar, and today we are going to be recapping week 1 of the playoff season and making our predictions for the semifinals, which is week 2. Landon, buddy, how are you doing today?
Doing alright, knowing that I have to do the last 2 of these without having a team.
That is sad, and you're the last match, so a little teaser for everybody later. But before we get started, folks, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button to like this video and subscribe to not only this channel, subscribe to myself, ItsReallyTimmyB, as well as all the other coaches. All that fun stuff will be in the description. And we do have an announcement to make really quickly. The Miami Dragon Knights, due to personal reasons, had to back out of the playoffs. We will still be talking about their match right here against the Akron Axews. But the Akron Axews will advance to the semifinals, and we'll talk about their matchup, obviously, as we make those predictions. But let's just get started with that match. That was the first order, the number 1 seed versus the number 8 seed. The Miami Dragon Knights ended up winning with a score of +4. And a couple of my notes that I wrote here, Landon. I wrote down musical chairs, which ISO said that they were doing with a lot of switching, and that made me chuckle. I never heard of musical chairs in Pokemon battling, but then I was like, oh, that makes sense. I'm going to write that down. I like that. The G-Max Urshifu was, it happened. Eternus comes in with the Dynamax cannon to take it out. Then the Dynamaxing Zarude to use the Max Airstream, which raises the speed, ultimately gave the Miami Dragon Knights the victory because it was faster than the rest and super effective against the rest of the Axews Mon. So smart play by Guanako there to go with the Max Airstream to raise the speed as opposed to maybe doing a Max Overgrowth or a Max Knuckle or something else to raise a different stat. He went for the speed raise, which came out clutch at the end. And then the Hippowdon surviving gave the Axews a chance there after a couple of seed bombs because of the sandstorm and everything, but the Zarude held on, eventually took out the Hippowdon, and the rest is history for a +4 Dragon Knights win. But the Axews played fantastic, arguably one of their better matches, if not their best match so far, bringing it out for the playoffs, and definitely could be a scary team going into the semifinals. Landon, what were your notes on this matchup?
So I tried to, write down as much as I can who the first blood went to for all these matches this week. Only got them for half, but the first blood went to ISO this match. After Dynamaxing Urshifu, the Whimsicott ended up going down. The Tailwind petered out in the same turn. Eternatus outsped because of that, and Urshifu went down, which turned it into an absolute switch fest. Lots of mons being switched out when they could have just gone down or used a neutral move. I know it's kind of hard for, sometimes, like, I don't want to risk this mon right now and stuff like that, but I think there was a couple instances that I saw where somebody could have just used a move that would have been neutral, or like try to guess what was going to be switched out to avoid how many switch outs there were. But that's just how it ended up being. Zarude Dynamaxing led to ISO's end. As soon as Zarude was Humberto Dynamax Zarude, I knew that the end was coming for ISO, because looking at the mons he had left, Haxorus was very low. Gastrodon was going to die to a grass type move he didn't end up bringing out while Zarude was Dynamax. Crobat was very, very low, could not take a Max Airstream at all. Max Quake was just going to drop Blacephalon, and Hippowdon was finished, Dynamax or not. So basically Zarude still standing is the reason why ISO lost with the way the HP was and what he had left. So that was when it was very clear that the win was going towards Guanako. But I think that in terms of what we've seen from ISO, this is probably the best I've seen him do. He didn't just stall out a coach with Hippowdon to make a match go longer than usual. So, we actually got to see him in action, which was awesome to see. Hippowdon was barely surviving towards the end there. It was surviving on like 1 HP. You'd think that it was holding a what's the item called?
Focus.
Yeah, Focus Sash, that one. You'd think it was holding a Focus Sash, but it wasn't, because they're illegal, and he was using Slack Off. But Humberto finally finished it off, and Groudon I'm probably still stuck on the fact that I just got a shiny Groudon. Gastrodon went down eventually, so I really did like this match. But congrats to Humberto and Iso. You battled well, so I can definitely see you being able to advance because of stuff. You'll do very well in the future.
Yeah, no, this is going to be exciting, and we'll get to that as we make our semifinal predictions. The next matchup, we have the Detroit Luxrays going up against the Kentucky Kinglers. The 2-seed Luxrays, 7-seed Kinglers. The Kinglers came out victorious here with a +2. My notes for this one are pretty simple. The Politoed one-shot the Blaziken on the Kingler side, which was an absolutely huge plus. Well, on the Luxray side, I really enjoyed the Quagsire, Whirlpool, and Yawn. Trap him in with the Whirlpool, put him to sleep, and then bring in something else that might be a little bit more better suited than a Quagsire to take out some of these Pokemon. But this battle came down to the Dynamax and the Gigantamax, because my other notes were the Dynamax Mimikyu, 3 for 3, killed 3 of the Kingler's Mons, and then Derek brought out the Cinderace, which we know is very, very dangerous. If you guys have watched Season 1 and Season 2 of the EBL, if not, go back and binge them, please. But then Cinderace, Dynamax, Gigantamax, and also got 3 kills. And the key was brought out the Galarian Moltres, went for a move. It was a critical hit, but the Cinderace survived, and at that point, that was the end for the Luxray. Still could have had a decent shot if that crit took out the Cinderace from the Moltres, but it didn't, so it held on and gave that Kinglers that +2 victory. But this was a very fun battle, but ultimately, it just came down to the who was Dynamax. I mean, 6 for 6 landed on both sides combined. I mean, that's pretty efficient Dynamaxing right there.
Yeah. So what I had down, of course, first and foremost, I took notice when it took me until seeing Derek send out Politoed that he came back with My Hero Academia nickname, so I was very excited about that. Not only that, but there was Pokemon that he brought that he didn't bring the last time he did this nickname theme, so there were some new nicknames, as well as a couple that were different before, but he changed this time. Cinderace was named Mirko, which was my suggestion. Mirko, very awesome rabbit hero that you kind of meet recently in the anime. He named Kingdra Bubble Girl, which of course is Sir Night-Eye's sidekick. Fat Gum is what Ludicolo's new name was, so it's no longer Todoroki just because it has Ice Beam, it's Fat Gum.
Fat Gum!
Fat Gum, which is that's what I named my Snorlax after in my
in your Nuzlocke, right?
My Sleep Block, the Color Saga, that one. I named Snorlax 1 for me. I
saw the name pop up and I was like, I know that name. It was like the Leonardo DiCaprio meme pointing at his TV, being like, I understand that reference.
And of course, yeah, and of course, Palkia was named All Might, so that was awesome to see from Derek. So yeah, I put down that the Politoed knocked out Blaziken, but of course Timmy already elaborated on that. Politoed went down, but Derek was fine with that because he mostly brought it out for Drizzle. Yeah, he brought it out to take down the Blaziken, but the Drizzle was up, so he was fine with that. Max's Mimikyu brought the Thunder. He finally got to use Mimikyu against Derek after stealing it from him, even though I don't believe Derek was planning on taking it with the Rain team. So, I'm sure Max got a kick out of that, especially since it kind of took out most of Derek's team. Derek was heading in a losing direction, but of course Cinderace proved itself to still be as good as it was in the first 2 seasons when he sent it out. Gigantamaxed it. He took out about 3 or 4 of Max's Pokemon and then finished off the rest of his team on Gigantamaxed. Special attack boosted Fiery Wrath from the Moltres was not enough to take out Cinderace. It survived on 11. It finished off the Moltres with Aerial Ace. And then finished off Quagsire, so that was it for Max's team. So very awesome match from the both of them. It could have been anybody's match. Derek had 2 left, but Cinderace happened to be one of those 2, and Max's team was out of there.
Yeah, and I mean, definitely not surprised. As we mentioned last week's roundup, you picked the Kinglers, I went with the Luxrays, and I said I wouldn't be surprised if the Kinglers pulled it off, and they did. Definitely a good Season 2 Max in the Detroit Luxuries. Excellent redemption from Season 2. So hopefully, and they will be back in Season 4 if they stay in the league. They're going to be a dangerous team. I say dangerous 3 times, folks. And next up, speaking of the number 3, we got the 3 seed TJ Gengar going up against the Indiana Igglybuffs. Latin Luigi versus Bob, aka Yeltneb. And the Igglybuffs won. I dropped my pen. I didn't write down the score, but I don't know. You probably have that. But my notes from this one was Latin Luigi's controller died, excuse me, right as the match started. So he had to go to his like little mini Switch controllers. I got my pen back, in case you guys were wondering. So he mentioned maybe misclicking once or twice as well. So maybe that could have been a factor of switching the controllers, like literally hopping into the battle. He Dynamaxed the Indeedee. Bob just kept switching around, that way he couldn't get bopped too hard. The Psychic Terrain was up. Xerneas came out. The Scizor tried to go with the Bullet Punch, but because of the Psychic Terrain, that blocked it. But the story of this battle was the Naganadel on the Igglybuffs team decided to Dynamax that bad boy up. Took out Swampert, took out Indeedee, took out the Rotom, took out the Xerneas. With the Beast Boost ability and some other boosts from some of these Dynamax moves, Luigi had no chance at that point, especially with Beast Boost. And the Naganadel was your MVP for Week 1 of the playoffs with a +5. Obviously, I just wrote down those 4 Pokemon, but once he took out the Xerneas, I was like, all right, this is over. We'll just talk about this in the roundup. But Landon, buddy, what were some of your notes from this dominance from Naganadel?
So to answer your question, I'm pretty sure that the score is 6-2. He took out 2 from Bob before, and Bob had taken out one of Luigi's Pokemon before it was brought out and completely destroyed the rest of Luigi's Mons. So it was 6-2. Of course, you guys can already see it because of my Photoshop work of me putting the layout over, but 6-2, that's what I'm saying as of right now, from what I recall. The first thing I put down is that Luigi used Defog right after Bob used Stealth Rock. So, he was just like, all right, Stealth Rock out of the way. The only negative part of it is I believe that the Tailwind that he had just put up petered out alongside that. I don't recall if that's exactly what happened, but I saw something else went away, and I'm pretty sure it was the Tailwind. So that kind of sucked for Luigi, but just to get the Stealth Rocks out of there, it was a good plan. Unfortunately, right after, he accidentally used Defog again when he accidentally pressed the wrong move. He meant to use U-turn, he used Defog, and then Mandibuzz got paralyzed. But at least the evasiveness of Bob's Pokemon went down again. That's really what Luigi needed. So then Naganadel D-Max, which ultimately decided the match. Naganadel outsped the rest of Luigi's team with the Beast Boost raising special attack. There was no survival. Kind of sucked seeing this. Luigi told me beforehand, before the matches even came out, that he lost because, I always tell him that I lose if I lose, or if I win, I tell him I win, and he does the same thing for me. So I already knew, but I knew as soon as I was going to be able to watch the match, it was going to hurt. But, watching it from Bob's side, he's a great battler. Both these guys are great battlers, but, I'm happy for Bob. He gets to fight Derek next week, so that's awesome.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second, and obviously Luigi is such a great battler. Definitely is capable of sweeping some teams, especially with the Pokemon like Xerneas, because I think that happened not too long ago. But yeah, Latin Luigi is a great battler. Just today, it happened to be Bob and the Igglybuffs moving on. And the final battle from Week 1 of the playoffs was your Iowa Incineroar going up against the Essex Espeons. As you mentioned at the beginning of the video, the Espeons were victorious in this one with a +3. Let me just go over some of my notes before you kind of talk about your battle, because this was very exciting to watch, a great battle, and good to see from both perspectives. Incineroar got the first blood, so that was a good start for you going up against that Orbeetle. Then Rillaboom takes out your Incineroar. See, I should be more organized with my notes because I just write stuff down. I wrote down Dynamax Celesteela. That's it. But then the Mew came out on Pokepitch's side and used Reflect type, which means that it now became a Steel Flying type, which is pretty good. It also correctly, or Pidge correctly, kind of, not correctly, but calling that Ice Punch when you switched into Noivern was very good. Then it Brick Break the Vanillux after Dynamaxing a couple of times and getting some boosted stats. Your Tapu Koko takes out the Mew, and then Snorlax came in, was going to use Block. You switched into Celesteela, so Celesteela could not, you could not switch out because of Block. And then I just wrote down Rillaboom, Hitmontop. I don't know why, but that's what I wrote down. But talk about your battle and kind of what you were going through. Obviously, everybody saw your perspective. Everybody saw Pidge's perspective, but Pidge, pretty much accurately called it. If you watch his side, he's like, I'm starting with Orbeetle, setting up Reflect, doing Iron Defense, even if he's like, hopefully Incineroar comes out first because I got Body Press, so he got that right. His Mew Reflect type wasn't for Celesteela, it just happened to work out to his benefit. But this was an excellent battle by Pidge. I think a big play was that Ice Punch on the Noivern, because that's just... Noivern's a good Pokemon. So, Landon, buddy, talk about your match with Pidge. This was a very exciting battle to watch, no matter who you wanted to win.
So, two mistakes. Obviously the fails aren't out yet, so I don't know if Luigi's going to include it. I asked him if he was, and he said no comment, so I guess we'll see. But, I mean, honestly, these were like heat of the moment. I was stressed about losing sort of decisions. I knew that he was going to switch out the Rillaboom. I knew he was going to switch out, and I still said I'm going to Dynamax Celesteela like it was a good idea. I really thought that if he was switching out Rillaboom, he was going to switch out to Raichu. I was going to use Max Zero Stream to start and then go for a Max Quake. Dynamax or not Dynamax the way we did EVs. Celesteela had a 100 to 120% chance of one-shotting Earthquake. One-shotting Raichu with Earthquake. Luigi and I used a website that has us do math for moves and their chances of one-shotting a Pokemon, and Earthquake from Celesteela with its EVs would have been 100 to 120%. So Dynamaxed, I was like, this thing's out of here. He brought in the Mew, which we didn't expect him to bring. We didn't prepare for the Mew coming, but we also didn't know, like, if we did prepare for the Mew coming, but we didn't expect for him to bring Reflect type. That was the only thing, and he did, and it was for Hitmontop, not Celesteela. So not only did I make the mistake of Dynamaxing Celesteela, but once Celesteela was done being Dynamaxed, I should have switched out to Tapu Koko. But the issue is that the last time I switched out to Tapu Koko on Mew, you Sludge Wave and one-shot Tapu Koko, and I didn't realize at this point that Mew was physical, so having Sludge Wave on it is probably not something he was running. And I don't think he was. I don't recall if it was in his moveset, but Sludge Wave is a special move, not a physical move. He probably didn't have it. I could have switched out to Tapu Koko much sooner. Even if, he probably wasn't even going to use Sludge Wave in that turn. Celesteela is immune to it. I think Steel's immune to poison. So, would have switched out to Tapu Koko. Max Knuckle would have done absolutely nothing. Could have outsped, even with Dynamax with Volt Tackle or whatever I had on Koko. It would have been out of there, but I was nervous about Sludge Wave, didn't know it was physical, so I switched out to Noivern. It happened to be the same exact turn. He planned to use Ice Punch on Celesteela to freeze it to get revenge for Comfey in week 3. That's the only reason why he did it. He wanted to get revenge with me, and I happened to switch out to the one Pokemon routine that was 4 times weak to Ice. And I only did that because I wanted to cut his HP in half being a Steel type, and then, switch out to Tapu Koko and finish it off from there if I could. But unfortunately that didn't work out. I said I still don't want to risk Tapu Koko, and this was a dumb idea because I would have outsped either way, but I switched out to Vanillux, he used Brick Break, Vanillux was gone. So at this point, I lost 2 months that I had lots of plans for. Him not bringing Toxapex meant Noivern wasn't as useful, but it still could have had some use. But from there, it just wasn't, good for me, basically. Rillaboom still being there, I forgot about that. You guys saw on my face, I was really excited because I was like, those last 2 Pokemon are weak to Hitmontop, and then he brought out the monkey, and then it was a switch fest of basically nothing that I could have done from there. So two mistakes ended up deciding the match for me. 2 mistakes. If I hadn't Dynamax Celesteela that early, and if I had switched out to Tapu Koko sooner, I might have won. Because I would have had Vanillux for Rillaboom, would have had Noivern for Rillaboom, and it would have gone much differently. But, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has those days. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. Everybody gets that way.
No, I completely agree with you. But definitely a great season for your Iowa Incineroar. Nothing to put your head down. You'll definitely be back in season 4 to cause some havoc in the EBL like you did this year in the regular season. And now you got some playoff experience under your belt. And once again, congratulations to PokePidge and the other guys for advancing. And speaking of advancing, we got the semifinals to make our predictions for. And starting off, excuse me, I just had a little burp. Normally don't do that. I apologize, everybody. But interesting little tidbit. The lower seeds all won, 5, 6, 7, and 8, all advanced. So that is really interesting. And the first matchup we're going to be talking about and making our predictions for is the 5-seeded Espeons. Those Espeons that just beat your team, going up against the 8-seed, the Akron Axews. And this happened in week 4. And this was the Hippowdon stall game that timed out. Fortunately, the Espeons did win with +3. But who knows what would have happened if there was no timer or anything like that. It was definitely a lot of stalling. So this one's interesting. I mean, PokePidge is a great battler. The Espeons are a great team, and it's going to be interesting to see who kind of makes those adjustments from when they did play in week 4. I was leaning Espeons, I was leaning Axews for a little bit, leaning back to the Espeons, leaning back to the Axews just because ISO did such a great job going up against Guanako. Definitely could have come out victorious in that matchup. But you know what? I got to go with the Essex Espeons in this one. I think Pidge's team looks a little bit better, and I think he'll make the necessary adjustments needed to prevent Hippowdon stalling and all that stuff. So I'm going with the Espeons in my pick to advance to the EBL Season 3 Finals. Landon, how about yourself?
I'm going to give it to Pidge as well, just going to say straight up. Just because, you know, we've talked about this when ISO and Pidge fought before. Pidge has got a good matchup for ISO, and the reason why the match got stalled out to what it was and got sent to timer is because Pidge purposely didn't switch out to Rillaboom against the Hippowdon because, you know, he was just fighting the Hippowdon. It was, in a way, it was legal stalling because he was attacking and stuff like that, but, you know, he'd already killed more mons than ISO had. He's just like, I'm just gonna fight this Hippowdon until time runs out. So at least, you know, at the time that he saw there was barely any time left, he's like, all right, at this point, just gonna fight this thing. If it goes down, it goes down. But he literally could have switched out to the Rillaboom and finished him off quicker. But you know, that really shows that when Pidge is like serious about winning as fast as possible, he can do it against ISO's team. So I really think that Pidge is going to be able to win against ISO here.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're both going with the Espeons. Definitely wouldn't be surprised if ISO pulls it off with his Akron Axews. And then that other semifinal matchup, a little bit of a quick one today, buddy. I mean, that's what happens when you have less and less battles. We got the 6-seeded Indiana Igglybuffs going up against the 7-seed Kentucky Kinglers. And this is really interesting because it's Bob versus Derek. Derek said that Bob is basically the guy who helped him so much throughout seasons 1 and 2 to become a battler in the EBL. Helped him get to the Season 2 championship, and now they're going up against each other. There's kind of like a, you know, mentor versus the mentee, teacher versus the student type of matchup here. And basically, if Bob wins, we will have 2 new people coming into the EBL Season 3 being in the finals. Or if Derek wins, the Kentucky Kinglers will be in the finals for back-to-back seasons, and hopefully their luck could turn around this time around after losing in the Season 2 finale. Landon, buddy, this is a tough one. I mean, looking at Bob's team, I clicked on the wrong one. I mean, you got the Urshifu, Ferrothorn, you know, Hawlucha, Primarina, Scizor. I think it's ultimately going to come down to, can he handle the Rain team, and can he handle Cinderace coming? Because we mentioned Ferrothorn. Well, Cinderace is fire type, Landon. I don't know if you know this, but fire is super de-duper effective against Ferrothorn and Scizor. So that is interesting. So I know Bob is a great battler. I know he can combat the rain. I know he'll have a plan, obviously. But just looking at those teams, I got to go with my guy Derek, and I got to go with the Kentucky Kinglers in this one, and the Rain and the Cinderace. So that is my pick. I'm writing it in pen, so if I need to change it, I need to cross it off, which I don't want to do. Landon, buddy, thoughts on this matchup, and who's your pick?
So the only like main issue I see here from Derek is that he runs a Drizzle team, and Bob has no weaknesses to water. Every single one of those Pokemon is either neutral or resistant to water. So that's kind of scary for Derek. But again, you know, it's not like he has pure type water types, and he's also got Cinderace on the team. So it's not like, you know, water's all he has. I think he's gotten a lot more strategic where he can plan around things, especially this season has helped him a lot. I think as soon as, you know, Pidge destroyed him with Confe, he woke up and realized, you know, I got to study more this week. He literally said at the beginning of his match against Max this week that he wrote 3 pages of notes studying his Pokemon. So I think Derek is putting a lot more work into studying every Pokemon that he can on his opponent's teams. And just because of that, I mean, Bob is fantastic battler. He's made it this far, and I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up winning the championship at the end. But at the end of the day, just looking at how Derek's been doing and how you know, well he can do, even when he doesn't have practice like he did the previous week. He's definitely not getting practice this week, at least not with Bob, because he can't practice with the guy he's facing. So I'm just going to hand this to the Kentucky Kinglers just because I think he can pull it off. But Bob, if you make it to the championships, I have a strong feeling you're going to win it all.
Ooh, that is interesting. I'm sorry, who was your pick again?
The Kinglers.
Kinglers, okay, cool. All right, well, yeah, I mean, like I said, short roundup, which happens when you have less and less games to talk about. I imagine next week's might be
10-minute roundup.
Woo! Maybe we'll just make it a short. We'll do it in 50 seconds, being like, this team won. Yes, great battles. Yeah. Final this week. Like and subscribe.
The championship one is going to be like, Derek won. It's going to be 5 seconds.
Hey, congratulations to R, and then it just cuts out, and then you got to come back for the other one.
I'm excited to see who the playoff MVP is going to be, because if next season's logo is Salamence and Naganadel, that would be amazing.
That would be quite an interesting one. It could be a little bit blue and purple, which that could mean a few things. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, Naganadel is the front runner for playoff MVP, needless to say, and as long as it doesn't get taken out, it probably could still win if Bob ends up winning. We'll see with that one. But buddy, we got the semifinals coming up this week. Do you have any final words for our beautiful and amazing viewers?
I just want to say thank you guys for supporting me this season. It's definitely went way better than last season. You know, people crack jokes here and there saying that Offline and Humberto made my season this season, or the reason why I was winning. But to be honest with you, Luigi was another reason. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, he helped me, but most of my plays and stuff like that were mostly like I had suggestions from Offline and Humberto with our practices and stuff like that, but a lot of predictions and stuff I made were on my own. So I've definitely gotten better with battling. I will admit that. Not trying to sound, you know, kind of full of myself, but I mean, you gotta self-reflection. I've done a lot better, but thank you guys so much. Season 4 Incineroar will be back, and maybe we'll be undefeated in the regular season next season. Yeah,
absolutely. And you have already shared at least your plan with me for your Season 4 team, and it is fantastic. It looks great. So we will obviously see as we get closer to Season 4. You know, maybe Timmy B joins if the invite does somehow get extended to me. Maybe I will join Season 4 as well and steal your entire team. But that's a road when we'll get there, folks. Guys, we are going to, you know, head off here. We're going to sign off. As I always say, make sure you like this video. Hit that thumbs up button. Do it now. It's free. Just click that little thumbs up button. Make sure you like this video. Also, subscribe to this channel and all the other channels here of all the coaches. Make sure you go watch those battles because that's where they will be. And, yeah, that is Landon, a.k.a. Infernomen, a.k.a. the coach of the Iowa Incineroar. And I'm just, it's really Timmy B. We will see you guys next week. Peace out.